And so you, now normally you would think, okay, I have a child running, amok, and I can afford the money, so I'm going to give it to it. At the end, well, how does that work out? And this is where you essentially hope that you're still creating a development which is wholesome and balanced. That is the hope. That even after you give them the money, that you would do that. And you enter now into the civil society mode. What is the civil society doing there? The fact of the matter is, civil society is singularly obsessed with politics. It sucks the oxygen out of everything else there. Because nobody else gets, you don't get the coverage. You can't talk about many things, but you don't get the coverage. You end up essentially doing things which are in support of political cause. Now, I'm having given this broad break, I'm not going to say there are no NGOs that are actually doing some of the things. I mean, I personally am involved with 3 or 4. I'm involved with Children with Special Needs, which is Chote Tare Foundation. I'm very close with that. I'm close with Kashmir Corruption Watch, KCW, Dr. Rubina Lone. I'm involved with some handicapped children. So there's mild activities going on. It's not that they're not. But the point is they don't get the traction. They don't get the space in the society, because society only wants to hear about what keeps the pot boiling. Every second NGO is talking about, whether it's the Chamber of Commerce, it is the other group. It's all about National Hydroelectric Power Corporation. A lot of time people will say, but these NGOs don't get money. No, we actually now have NGOs that actually are officially sanctioned to receive foreign money. And the funny part is, the NGOs which are locally, which are genuine, which are working on some of the needs that I talk about, I mean, they are really suffering because nobody's really giving them a lot of money, and they think most of this money that others are getting is, basically there's not a good accounting for that. It was very interesting. Now, the last slide I put is very interesting because I've been involved in that movement from day one, RTI, which is really probably the single first action which does get a lot of coverage in the media, and really has started terrorizing politicians and bureaucrats because people are looking for getting some facts out. But Muzaffar is being almost, he's almost being put under intense pressure to join a political party right now. I mean, he is literally they're literally throwing trucks of money at him to get him to join a political party. They don't want him out there because now he has become so important. When we were all struggling, they didn't care. But now he started making the waves, and these parties are doing everything possible to get him. And one of these days, he may very well join a party. I mean, we have this one group, which is with Javed, but Javed is himself a handicapped person, and he is really. We've been trying to change some of the J&K laws so that they will become more friendly to handicapped people. I mean, people look at us, politicians, and they look at us like, are you guys from a different moon? I mean, what are you guys talking about? These things cannot happen overnight. We can't. Hey, these are the people. But that's the same thing with the children. I mean, you have to see how poorly the programs are for children. I mean, this is the future of these. I mean, of course, the tragedy is these are not their children. Their children are all in private schools, good medical care and everything else. But the state runs like that. I'll give you an example of a relatively good, which had a good mission. I deliberately distorted the name because I don't want to get into legal trouble. But this is an organization that deals with a very noble cause, which is the missing people. And actually, this president is a lady who actually had her son, who she lost at the time of some military picket and never seen and heard again. Some lawyer helped her at that time set up the organization. That lawyer, eventually they had a fight with each other because lawyer was trying to get glory for himself and moving on to anti-India denouncement and all that. And she kept the focus on the missing people, and she actually runs these demonstrations in the Srinagar almost on every weekend, where they highlight the problem of the things. But I don't want to read everything out, but you can see, even in her organization, where there was a lot of investment done with the help of United Nations and Norwegians, they didn't want to do it fairly. They at the end, they basically went in contravention to some of the activities. Because this was the only one actually United Nations people have actually funded in Kashmir. And it took a lot of effort even from in Delhi to get that approved and get up there. But then they don't play, again, I mean, they didn't run it the way it should have been run. It was very interesting the way, when the audit was done, how they had selected, which FIRs they had selected for missing people. It's an exercise which we can take in the question and answer session. That was an interesting, how even they made this missing issue also a political issue, even though there was no need for it to be a political issue, because this is genuine. You have a child who's missing. You as a parent or brother or sister will feel very strongly. And why do you want to go and screen FIRs selectively so that there is a certain current message in those FIRs that you use? So we have at the end of the day essentially a structure where you have really a tremendous amount of social issues that are not really getting their due understanding, support by the government, which is understandable because they are, but not by the media. Nobody in civil society, other than named a few of these who are working on it, really are supporting the structure of what I will consider basic tenets of a nationhood. I mean, you want a healthy nation. You can't live on politics alone. You gotta have interest, commitment, investment of time and effort in other areas which are equally important. You got to work on that. Primary health care, absolutely dismal. You go to even tertiary hospitals, there is not a heck of a lot of supplies there. But you go to the primary care units, you are really, that's why the sub-Saharan, example really works, because they are really in bad shape. They don't really have any major equipment. Even in the tertiary hospitals, I was giving an example to friends yesterday when we had these doctors from, some of them who joined this social activities program. They told us, one lady doctor started crying. I said, what happened? She said, I am not given any gloves. I'm delivering babies every day. There's a shortage of gloves. Nobody's buying the gloves. We are actually delivering babies without gloves. How many of them will get infected? God only knows. And it's not that there isn't money. We already talked about $7.1 billion. The corruption is extreme, and nobody can talk about it because you have no other avenue. You talk about it, you'll be thrown out. You will not have a job because there is no alternative. The only jobs are the patronage jobs given by the government. Contaminated food supply. I don't know how many of you read about. Again, very recent data. Two things are very big. One is spurious drugs. A lot of drugs that are being sold in Kashmir are out. In other words, they don't have a date. It used to be always there. You basically sell outdated medicine which are like 5-year, 6-year-old supply, because the poor villager doesn't know and there used to be a certain trust factor, because quite honestly the business of pharmacy was with some people who are not in the state anymore, and once that group of people left and the pharmacies were taken by the local communities, well, a lot of scruples started happening. Other thing was milk. We had a big problem with milk. Children with special needs. I mean, it is alarming what's going on there. And I'm not even talking about mental and other issues. I'm talking about basic issues with respect to their physical, economic justice. I don't know how many of you actually have read some of the interesting data. I mean, the Associated Chambers of Commerce of India, ASHCOM, last year completed a study on the diversity of rich and poor in various states of India. And Kashmir ranked highest in the biggest divide between the rich and the poor. And they took the top 10% and the bottom 10%, and the ratio of top 10% to bottom 10% is 286%, which is the highest in India. And not only that, but even the rate of increase from which was previously, it was 243%, is the highest. The rate of increase of divergence is also the highest. Now, that's one side of it. Let me give you another data. Kashmir, or J&K state, whenever I say Kashmir, I really mean J&K.
It's a problem with all the Kashmir.
Yeah. The VAT collection, value-added tax collection, in absolute rupees, it is the highest last year in Kashmir. Highest, more than states which are 6 times bigger in size, or 10 times more stronger in economy. They didn't have a value-added tax add up to the absolute rupees as the J&K. So which means the top 10% really pile it on. And this is let's go down to the ecological. Kashmir has yet to pass, J&K has yet to pass a single industrial ecological bill. They are all the bills that have been submitted and presented are all from the center, because they don't want to have any bills right now, because they are working on a bill. It has so many signatures that are needed and all that people are worried that it will only add up to the corruption, that you have to basically pay more people in the process, because, and what's happening? I mean, ecologically, Kashmir is a disaster right now. I mean, you have basically water bodies which are drying out. You have Dal, which is today of the size of 1/10. The cell. I mean, the smell is stenchy. I mean, you just walk around the boulevard and certain portions. The stink is immense. You can't miss it. Forests are pretty much gone. I mean, today the Srinagar temperature in the summertime is only 1 or 2 degrees Celsius below than Delhi and Jammu. I mean, the whole ecology is changing there. Many of the lakes, Mansfield, others, they are all dried out. There is nothing out there. I mean, it's an ecological disaster, and we still don't have a bill. Everybody talks about it, but nothing happens. Women's issues, as I said, I do this discussion circle with women, and maybe during the Q&A we can talk about what was it was a very interesting discussion. The first round last year we came down to 20 questions, and this year we brought the number down to 10. And so we can talk about that in Q&A, what those 10 ended up to be from the women's perspective.